Now that Phoenix has national, was taking their licks. It's by far the Clippers, though. Now, albeit without Kristaps Porzingis and that injury he suffered, though, get over the playoff hump. You're able to knock them. Oh my goodness, here we go again. And I think you need your best guy out there again. With Jazz upper brass for this because of COVID, covering up his eye after he's a home. That, guys, is the great 25 years. Finally, for one game. But Ja Morant is the truth. I am telling you, fellas. The All-Star break may have come and gone, folks, but we are finally back here on the Sports Lounge inside of the MI6 Sports Network on this Tuesday evening, July 13th. 2021, per usual, folks. Callan McClurg joining you, folks, here from the home studios here in San Diego, California. Hopefully, all is well with you, folks, here tonight on this Tuesday. Again, baseball all-star game wrapping up a little bit earlier here on this Tuesday night. Again, nothing going on with games yesterday, today, for parts of tomorrow, of course, and other things going on, though. But again, folks, we apologize for missing out on the program last week, though. But again, as you probably have known, though, but a little bit of some summer work for me on the announcing home front, though, with some high school baseball, some Little League baseball over the past couple of, or at least during last week. And again, not really having a chance to come here and, of course, talk sports with you folks. But again, we are here, though, recapping again, plenty of things going on, though, in the wide world of sports. But as usual, folks, we'll take your live input again, those questions, those comments, those concerns, any and all in the live chat box here. Via, again, of course, the Facebook or YouTube streams here. And again, we thank you all so much for joining us. We will, the folks, actually have our good man Isaiah Leung from the MI6 Sports Network joining us in just about roughly 13 minutes and change to talk about some of the remarks made by Commissioner Rob Manfred today in regards to potential rule changes, but also we'll have a bit more about Isaiah and the Oakland A's, though, and again, the potential chance of that ball club hopefully staying in Oaktown. But again, it does sound it's gotten worse, actually, as in fact the day has in fact gone on. But of course, folks, let's begin tonight and open a tab. I want to start tonight recapping the Baseball All-Star Week. And I know it's been was a bit of a subject of a controversial talking point over the time of when the game was supposed to be in Atlanta this year and moved to Denver in wake of what we had, of course, has gone on, though. But, folks, I will say, though, that Isaiah, myself, and Sam talked about this on Monday on Wild Sports Talk, and I will reiterate what I said here, though, is that I read an opinion piece in USA Today on Monday morning, the day of the Home Run Derby, and, of course, the day before the All-Star Game. And the writer literally wrote, though, and I think it was very well put, though, that this event that brings the best talent from all 30 Major League Baseball clubs was something that baseball genuinely needed after a year, though, of course, of where all of us were knocked down for the 10 count and we fought our way back up to our feet. And, of course, have done our part to get over and put this pandemic behind us. But especially, though, with baseball at least, though, and with a all-star game and with a league, though, folks, that as you have heard me, you've heard Isaiah, you've heard Ryan Schreiner, you have heard, Sammy Sharp, you've heard Loro Antonio, you've heard all of our, you've heard all the baseball fans on this network talk about how baseball has just shot themselves in the foot over the past, several years, maybe the last decade, maybe more so the last 5 years, maybe 7 years, or since Bud Selig retired and Rob Manfred has taken over as baseball's commissioner. And that in wake, though, folks, of a lot of stuff being thrown on baseball's plate with, as you know about with Trevor Bauer right now, as we know with pace of play, as we know of with, some teams who have finally reached, the 85% vaccination threshold for COVID vaccines, and with, television issues, and with, not marketing the star players like, just for example, Fernando Tatis Jr., Vlad Guerrero Jr., players like that, though, that the All-Star game, I think, in a way was not like a rebirth moment for Major League Baseball, but certainly was a moment, I think, though, that I think a lot of baseball fans were like, I'm not taking this for granted during the All-Star break. Because, you're kind of, like a player, you're used to watching games every single day, whether your team is playing or not. And, watching maybe a different ball club play that's in your local television market, or there's somewhere close by, or you get a national game on where you can say, hey, I really enjoy watching, just for example, I like watching, the Rays play, or watching the Twins play, or the Brewers play, and you can, see a different ball club as opposed to your home team play. And that, especially though, folks, this season, with this All-Star game, though, I don't recall, folks, a All-Star game being this, full of hype, and the game maybe not living up to the hype, though, but the players and talent certainly living up to the hype, though, with Tatis Jr., with Vlad Jr., with Aaron Judge, with Bo Bichette, with Shohei Ohtani, of course. How can I forget Shohei, of course, still setting records and still making baseball history, here in 2021, and he's been nothing short of exciting. Jeff Passan wrote a story today, though, as well on ESPN.com on Tuesday that literally read, here is why Ohtani, Tatis Jr., and Vlad Jr. are the true three faces of Major League Baseball and belong right now on baseball's Mount Rushmore, with Tatis Jr. in San Diego, Vlad Jr. tearing it up in Toronto, and of course, Shohei Ohtani, again, who's really, I think, though, who really has put a very sluggish Angels ball club, him and Jared Walsh both, have put this, piano of an organization on their back and have got them to somewhat of a more respectable record. Of course, Vlad Guerrero Jr., All-Star Game MVP tonight. Again, becoming him and Vlad Sr. becoming, I believe, the second pair of fathers and sons to hit a home run in a All-Star game. And he, of course, wins MVP. And, of course, El Nino, Fernando Tatis Jr., who, for one, slayed at the purple carpet event today with his pink suit in honor of his mom, again, because pink is his mom's favorite color. But also, wearing the microphone in game today. But also that, Freddie Freeman literally said that, the highlight for him was that his son Charlie could go meet Fernando Tatis Jr. And I think that Jeff Passan knocked it out of the park today with his story about why Tatis Jr., why Vlad Jr., and why Shohei Ohtani are the three faces of the game, but also why I believe that these three players are the main three players that baseball has desperately needed. As I have said, though, folks, about my hometown Padres and about Tatis Jr., that these three players are what will bring fans back to the ballpark. Yes, I know, though, that there's resentment about, the game being moved out of Atlanta, and I totally respect your opinions about that. I'm not going to be here and trash your thoughts or trash what you believe in, because I'm not that type of a person. I have not been that way, and I do my best to always get better and improve day in and day out, not just on air, but also away from on air, with everyone's thoughts about sports and stuff away from sports. But that I know that there's thoughts about that. But also, though, where attendance probably has been, shafted in certain markets. I know that we have some issues right now that we'll talk about with Isaiah Leung very shortly here on the lounge, though. But that this week, I think, Monday, Tuesday, even tomorrow on Wednesday is going to be probably not really a resurrection period, but I think, though, for baseball, a very good, look yourself in the mirror and look to see where you're at right now. And I totally think, though, that with how it was received in Colorado, again, the home run derby, again, Pete Alonso, 35 homers in the first round, absolutely insane, going back-to-back for just the third time ever that we've had a back-to-back champion in the home run derby. But again, Ohtani hitting, bombs to the upper deck in batting practice. Trey Mancini, what a great story about Trey Mancini. This guy beat stage 3 cancer, comes back and plays last season, and then he makes it to the final this year in the home run derby. I mean, I know that Ohtani, I picked him to win yesterday, but of course was somewhat, I think, though, a little gassed, though, because of him really not taking batting practice in front of a crowd or on the field of play as he does during the course of him only doing it inside of the cages at Angel Stadium or on the road, though. But that this week for baseball, again, we're going to dive into this a little bit more with Isaiah Leung here, folks, very shortly here in about 5 minutes here, is that this week for Major League Baseball, to me, just seemed to be like a refreshing way to kind of, I think, remind us why baseball is so beautiful, despite their issues. And, and folks, sports isn't squeaky clean. politics aren't squeaky clean. Life isn't squeaky clean. And that, in every sport, though, folks has had to jump over hurdles or they've had their issues. They've had their lockouts. They've had their, bickering and bantering and stuff like that, though. But I think that for baseball's sake, maybe for their health of this league, though, I know, of course, we're going to get into a lot of things though, with Isaiah here very shortly, but that these past couple days, though, just to me as a baseball fan, I've been a baseball fan my whole life, though, it just felt very refreshing. Because, and not just that, though, folks, because we didn't have this pageantry last year where I think we could have used an all-star game just because of that we as sports fans, but also as a country and as a world, needed something to lift our spirits up last year. And I really think that we were kind of missing out on that last season, with there being no all-star week. I know it's going to be in LA next season and that the Dodgers will do a great job hosting, as did the Rockies this year on somewhat short notice, though. But I do think, though, folks, give me your thoughts here, folks, about the past couple days if you're a baseball fan. Refreshing, rewarding, awesome. I mean, I, for one, could not stop smiling and laughing about how Shohei Ohtani and Fernando Tatis Jr., their whole at-bat, both these young kids are smiling. They're having a great time. Again, the guys who were mic'd up during the course of the game today, especially, Tatis Jr.'s reaction going like this when Vlad hits the home run, 467 feet to the upper, the last row of seats below the scoreboard at Coors Field. And just seeing the guys, and I know, and I even told this to my folks today, it may be a little bit awkward, seeing guys on your team talk to guys that are in the division, like, for example, Padres players talking to Dodger players or Giant players, though. But at the same time, though, I think that they know, though, that this is more of a showcase more than them actually, playing a game, for wins and losses and things like that. And certainly I do think those, though, folks, of not having the All-Star game for home field advantage, though, that's what I think, though, is, I think, better. I know that, of course, we had 17 players not partake in the game on Tuesday, but folks, forget that. We had 41 first-time All-Stars playing in their first ever All-Star game, which I think further helps maybe boost baseball's morale in my mind. But certainly, folks, can give me your thoughts on this All-Star week again. Home Run Derby, again, congrats to Pete Alonso. Congrats to the American League for their 8th straight victory. Great to see all the guys out there again. Like I said, the folks, Ohtani and Tatis Jr. literally smiling the whole at-bat as they were facing off. Seeing Max Scherzer and Vlad Jr. embrace after, Vlad nearly took Max's head off of that line drive back up the middle. And just seeing the guys, kind of be like kids again, and I think that, one of my favorite moments, though, for sure, was, Freddie Freeman told us to Steven Nelson and Kevin Millar on Intentional Talk on Tuesday afternoon on MLB Network that, Charlie, his son, told his dad when he was hitting about 220, Dad, you got to play better so we can go to the All-Star game so I can meet Fernando. That's all that his son wanted to do. And you saw the video, I'm sure, folks, across social media of Charlie getting a huge hug from El Nino. So certainly, I think for me, though, as a baseball fan, this was a week so desperately needed for baseball as a sport, for all these organizations, and also certainly, I think, though, a great thing to see all 41 of those players, folks, make their first ever All-Star game as well here today. Plenty of thoughts, though, from the MI6 faithful. My good man, Ishmael Lancaster, saying, what's up, Cal? Glad to have you in the lounge back. I know I missed you last week, man, but it's been a very somewhat busy couple of weeks here for me, so glad to have you here. Ishmael agrees. He says, Callan, it was very refreshing to have the All-Star festivities and to get away for at least a few days from the ugliness and potentially ugliness of what is Major League Baseball. Christy Wilson says that the future of the game is here with these three guys, which, of course, is Ohtani, Vlad Jr., and also with Fernando Tatis Jr. as well. Ishmael's asking, Cal, what are your thoughts on the Phillies who are currently having a COVID outbreak, having the least amount of players and coaches vaxxed, and Joe Girardi saying it's the player's choice, they can do what they want. The Cubs, I believe, Ishmael, were in a similar spot in regards to that they didn't really reach that 85% threshold. Again, I'm not here to tell people what to do and what not to do with how they vote or what they choose to do with their body. It's their discretion, but it certainly is a bit alarming, though. But at the same time, though, I think it probably, if there is one small blessing in disguise, it came at the right time with the All-Star break. And also, Christy says that the All-Star weekend was a lot of fun. And also a shout out to my good man, Casey King, who says good evening. And congrats to Vlad Jr. on being named the All-Star Game MVP. With that, folks, we jump out now to the Sticks McClurg hotline to welcome in our good man, Isaiah Leung, joining us from the home studios up in Fremont, California, here on the lounge. Isaiah, welcome aboard, man. Glad to have you here to talk some baseball for the next several minutes here, man. Again, I know a lot of moving parts here, though, on this Tuesday, man. Good to see you. How we doing tonight?
Callan, I'm doing great. It was a great all-star game. I saw a couple of my A's players play. JT Realmuto hit a home run to make my Phillies proud, and it was just, a great all-star game. It was a great all-star week in general, and I'm so glad that we got away from the ugliness that baseball has gotten themselves into, and also potentially gotten themselves into as well. What's coming up in the off season with the potential the lockout and all of that, crap that could go on this off season. But it was a great break, and I can't wait for the second half of the season. And I also got to say, Callan, since I'm on your show tonight, I'm repping your home city, man. Slam Diego, the home of your Padres, the home of Fernando Tatis Jr., and the home of one of the best teams in all of baseball in the San Diego Padres, and also the home of Paradise. Paradise, San Diego. I've been there a few times, and it's like heaven, man.
Proud to have called this place my hometown for 27 years, my man. Of course, Isaiah, we brought you on here more so because this was kind of like basically this that Tuesday and Monday and Tuesday are essentially the commissioner's office's version of the State of the League address. Essentially, again, Rob Manfred, of course, handling the draft on Sunday, and of course on Monday would go the day before the All-Star game. Usually goes and talks to the BBWAA, the Baseball Writers Association of America, to talk about like where the league's at. Stuff that may in fact come up though in regards to the following season, how things are going right now. But certainly, Isaiah, I think the first thing to kind of really, I think, hit on the head right now, though, man, is still like this uneasiness, though, that probably you're feeling. I'm kind of feeling. I think any baseball fans feeling, though, about the potential chance of a baseball lockout during 2022, Isaiah, where again we're kind of somewhat living right now in a very suspenseful time right now in Major League Baseball at this rate in regards to, the uncertainty right now about, will they agree on certain rules? Will they agree on this or that? And I know that, and we know that you're very vocal about, that owners and players can't agree about what to have on, have for lunch or for dessert or for dinner. But certainly, Isaiah, though, even though that we're at the halfway mark right now, where right now probably is your concern level about maybe that things do in fact turn south as the remainder of the season does in fact play out?
I think this is the calm before the storm. I think that, this, like I've been saying for a couple of months now, I honestly believe that this will be the last baseball season that we have for a while, because I really don't believe that the players and the owners are going to be able to agree on anything come when they have the collective bargaining agreement talks. And, as a fan that loves baseball, what really made me pissed off, depressed, and really sad was those talks that they had. I believe it was after the shutdown had happened, and they were trying to figure out how to structure the resumption of baseball, or the return of baseball. And they kept bickering back and forth. The sides would, air out their dirty laundry in public, and it would basically be a warfare via social media. One side would say this, the other side would say this, and then they would, not even talk about what they wanted to talk about when it came to negotiating the return of baseball. They would just take personal shots at each other. I remember the players were taking shots at the owners, saying the owners are so cheap and they don't want to pay players. And I believe there was an owner, if I'm not mistaken, that said that the players, we don't need the players. We don't need them because we're rich as hell already. We don't even need baseball to exist, and this and that. So that was what made me really sad and really upset and really depressed. And you saw this off season when MLB wanted to get into negotiations with both the players and the owners about making or having the expanded playoffs a permanent thing, and also putting in a universal DH for, I believe, for just this season. And both the players and the owners, they just shut it down like that, and they refused to talk. And I think that was just a sign that, the sides are just at really, really bad odds. The tension is ginormous between these two sides, and I just don't think they will be able to mend the fences before the 2022 season. That's why I really don't see that we will have a 2022 baseball season. I don't even know if we're going to even have a 2023 baseball season, because like we already saw that, it dragged out for months in 2020 when they're trying to negotiate the return of baseball. It dragged on for months. I anticipate this entire collective bargaining talk, when they're trying to negotiate the entire collective bargaining agreement, the new one, I anticipate it could drag on for like 6, 7, 8 months, and it could be really, really ugly, and we could see back and forths through social media.
Yeah, I mean, I have done my damnedest, Isaiah, to stay like, optimistic, like, hey, maybe they can work something out eventually. But I think though, Isaiah, with a sport like baseball, though, who's had so many, issues like this, whether it was, replacement umpires for a bit, maybe some replacement players coming in. Then you have the strikes of, I believe, 81 and 94 kind of coming to mind, though, more so 94 coming to mind, though, with Tony Gwynn being so close to hitting 400 that year, though. And things, I think that nowadays, Isaiah, I feel a lot more leery about stuff now because of how, players are trying to get their say or that, hey, we want more power as players to be able to negotiate or be able to have our voices heard in a more louder way. But certainly I do, in fact, I think I agree with your stance, though, Isaiah, that certainly I, for one, want to stay optimistic, though, but I think, though, that you have to face reality, that eventually that you may have to, in fact, you can be as optimistic as you want to be, but at the same time, though, you have to also remember, at the same time, things could probably turn in a, could be, they could turn very, very quickly.
Yeah, and also I think another situation that really shows what or how ugly of a winter we're in for is, Callan, I don't know if you were on Wild Sports Talk when we talked about this, but I think back in February when it involved the Mariners, I believe. Kevin Mather, their then president of baseball operations, I believe, or either president or president of baseball operations, one of those two titles. He was caught, I believe, on a hot mic in a meeting with like Mariners donors and boosters, and he said like a lot of alarming stuff that the fans and the players had assumed was going on, but what he said basically confirmed that what the players and the fans suspected, and that was he said that the reason why that they decided to put Jared Kelenic, the stud outfielder who I think is going to be a great player for a long, long time, into AAA when he was having an outstanding spring. He said that it was because they wanted to mess with the service time, and they wanted to. They did not want him to be a free agent after that 5 years of service time is up. So they wanted to delay that. And after, like, besides that, he was also saying how like he doesn't like the fact that players are using translators and all that stuff. Like he was saying a lot of ugly stuff that players thought that was happening behind the scenes from the owners, but it got confirmed by what he was saying. And I think that was one of the breaking points, because now the players have video evidence that this is going on. They can't just be like, they say this, and then the owners are like, no, we didn't do that. You're just suspecting, like, where's your video proof? Well, they now have proof that this is actually what's going on based on comments by Kevin Mather, the former president of the Seattle Mariners.
And now, whenever they do, in fact, say, well, you have no proof, now they have the proof to be able to say, well, hey, this is what you think of us, so here's what we think of you, basically. And certainly, I think, though, with Max Scherzer and before his admin leave, though, Trevor Bauer, those two guys were extremely, extremely vocal during the course of last year's fiasco with baseball not being able to figure out what to do for the season. A couple of thoughts, Isaiah. Christy Wilson agrees, though, that if there's a lockout, it will be like 94 all over again. And Casey King is blunt. He says, fellas, I'm not too optimistic that there will be a season next year. It's going to be ugly with these negotiations. And certainly, I think, though, Isaiah, minus maybe the remarks made by Seattle and by the former employee of the Mariners, what else, Isaiah, might be the biggest breaking point for players to say, hey, thanks, but no thanks for 2022. We'll see you in 2023?
Well, Honestly, I think that it's some of the cheap owners in Major League Baseball that refuses to spend. That's why when they proposed the expanded playoffs, Callan, I don't know if you were a big fan of it, but I certainly was, because I thought that that would incentivize a lot of these owners to spend money, because everybody basically has a great shot at making the postseason. You look at last season, I know it was a 60 game truncated schedule, but you had teams like the Marlins. You had teams that wasn't even supposed to be there, like the Cincinnati Reds, who they were hovering they were hovering at 500 for the majority of the first half. And normally, like at those teams that are hovering above 500, you're just like, yeah, they have no shot, because the division's going to be out of reach. Wild card is out of reach as well. They're probably going to be selling as well. So with that expanded playoff, it really helped incentivize a lot of these owners to spend, because now they have a shot to get into the postseason. And me and you both know that when you reach the postseason, anything is possible. We saw that with the 2010 Giants. We saw that with other, teams that had miraculous runs in the postseason. Just get to the postseason and you have a shot at possibly winning it all. And also the Royals as well from 2014, although they didn't end up winning the World Series championship, but they still somehow, some way got from the wild card game into the World Series. But I think it's just these cheap owners. You can't have like the Indians payroll, for example. You can't have that payroll being less than what LeBron James makes in a single season. You just can't have that. Some of these owners are just blatantly tanking, and it just sucks for the game, and it sucks for the fan bases that are fans of those teams. And because they deprive those fans of good winning baseball. They deprive those fans of great players on their squad. And also for the players like the Oakland A's, you have like a 4 to 5 year window every single you have a 4 to 5 year window with your young core, and then after 4 to 5 years they're gone. Like, they are guaranteed to be gone, because the ownership, they don't want to pay them, they're too cheap. So, and then you are back in a rebuild. And I think fans and players are just tired of, for the fans are tired of not seeing, winning baseball. Like for some of these small market cities, are seeing like only winning baseball for like 4 to 5 years, and then you end up back in a rebuild that lasts like 10 years. And then for the players, they're just, really upset that they're not getting paid what they are worth. Like Matt Chapman, for example. He's a really great third baseman, but I believe he's only making like 500, or he's making like 5 million this year, which is utterly absurd.
And especially in a market like Oakland, though, and we'll talk about the A's a little bit more in depth momentarily here, but certainly, though, folks, again, if you have any thoughts, though, folks, about the potential baseball lockout, let us know. We want to, in fact, hear out your thoughts. Casey King first says that he, for one, liked the expanded postseason, where, again, it literally was like, Isaiah, like the NBA playoffs. It was one through 8, made it in the entire league.
Exactly. That's why I liked it, because not only was it a guarantee that my A's, like, if we didn't win the division, who cares? We're still guaranteed a playoff spot. But it was also hope for some of these teams that either are hovering above 500, or before the season and before the expanded playoffs, they didn't think they even have a chance at making the playoffs. Just look at the Marlins. Like, when they had that COVID outbreak, everybody was like, yep, they're missing like 15, 20 players. They're going to be dead last in the NL East. They're done. There's no way the Marlins are going to make the playoffs. And somehow, some way, the Marlins got the second spot in the National League East, and they ended up making the playoffs. And also for the San Francisco Giants as well. That Giants team nearly got into the wild card despite having like a bunch of misfits on that team. And it's not just like you make the playoffs to have good morale for your team. Some of that can translate over to the next season. You look at the Giants, they almost made the playoffs. They had that confidence. They felt great about themselves. And look what they're doing this year. It boosted them up. They're playing great baseball right now. They have the best record in all of baseball. So it really helps teams. It helps players. And it definitely helps coaches and owners as well. To have that expanded playoff, and it helps everybody involved, and it also helps the fans too, to keep hope that their team is still in it.
Christy Wilson also says the owners are just extremely greedy, in her opinion, definitely for sure. But with that, though, Isaiah, I mean, I think you're right, though, in regards to that, the postseason, I think, and more so, I think I became intrigued by the entire wild card round. Best 2 out of 3, all 3 games played at the higher seeded ballpark, though I know it's because of COVID concerns, though. But that really, I think, kind of got my gears going. Same when the NHL went to their 24 team bubble in Edmonton and in Toronto, where the seeds 5 through 12 played a 3 out of 5 series to determine who would actually move on to the actual Cup playoffs. So certainly, Isaiah, if the postseason did in fact get changed, though, would you have been a fan per se for that hypothetical situation of you would still play that wild card round with 2 out of 3 format and all 3 games being played at the higher seeded ballpark, regardless of COVID or not?
Yes, because first of all, it would give teams incentive to play better because I know with that expanded playoff and with baseball having 8 teams per league into the playoffs, some of these teams that are guaranteed to make the playoffs, like Oakland, the Yankees, Padres, Dodgers in the National League, they could just be like, yeah, there's 8 spots. If we don't win the division, we can either get second place or, we could just get one of the wild cards and just slip in. But it gives those teams incentive to try to play good baseball, even though they're kind of guaranteed a spot in the postseason. I know there's no such thing as guaranteed in sports.
Right.
But you're basically guaranteed a spot if you're one of those like top teams in baseball. It gives you that incentive to, not slack off and play good baseball and try to get either one of those top 4 seeds so you can get home field advantage throughout the entire wild card round, because we saw last year, home field advantage. I know like there was no fans, but still, if you have with fans in the stands, and let's say like you're the Houston Astros or you're one of those teams that are playing in a raucous environment each and every night. Imagine having 3 games at your home ballpark. The opponent would be beaten before they even step on the field to play a game.
I mean, absolutely. I think that would be just insane, to have, that, 1 through 8, but have the higher seeds, 1, 2, 3, and 4, have home field, and you have to play like in Houston, in San Diego, or in Dodger Stadium, and the crowds are boisterous and they're raucous, and you may have to play 3 games in that ballpark. Good luck. Back over to you, Isaiah.
And I also wanted to make another point that, I don't think any of those like top teams should get a bye, because I know like baseball was talking about maybe giving like the first 2, like the number 1 and number 2 seeds both buys. But I think that would be a really bad idea, because I think that, it would be good for like those teams because they can take time off. But for the fans and for like fans' sake, I think it would take away the competition and take away the potential upsets. Because Callan, and I know this, that baseball is one of the most unique postseasons in all of sports, because it doesn't matter if you're the top seed or you are the bottom seed in the postseason. Any team can win. The ball can like roll either side or roll either way, or and then, that top team would be screwed if they don't play their best baseball, or if, the umpire calls a strike for some team, or, your team is, in a slump, then you're screwed. So I think that like what baseball should do is keep that expand or have the expanded playoff, make it 1 through 8. Every team has to play, but the top teams, they don't get buys, because I think, it will take away the upset factor. And also they should have it where the top 4 seeds get all 3 games in their own home ballpark. I think that would be good for not just the top seeds, but also for the bottom seeds as well, because it shows the bottom seeds have a chance, and then the top seeds, they get home field advantage.
With that, though, folks, maybe a ray of hope, perhaps, for a 2022 baseball season, Isaiah. That was also in wake of Commissioner Manfred's State of the League address to the Baseball Writers Association of America, though, Isaiah. But apparently, though, Commissioner Manfred has laid out 4 key rule changes that could perhaps take place as early as a potential 2022 season, Isaiah, which includes banning or eliminating all defensive shifts, reverting back to 9-inning doubleheaders, removing the runner on second base rule, and possibly bring the DH rule to the National League. So, Isaiah, I remember sharing the story, though, to the group earlier today, though, and saying, minus the last one on screen, I'm all for all three of these in some capacity, Isaiah. How about you?
Callan, unfortunately, I think the DH to the National League is inevitable because I think with a lot of managers in the National League. I think like Mike Shell, forgot the other guy's name, but they've been very vocal that they don't like their play or their pitchers batting. I think I remember correctly that Adam Wainwright swung a bat and he either hurt his elbow or he hurt some muscle or some part of his body, and he was out for like 2 weeks. And he was like the best pitcher on the Cardinals at that time. And the Cardinals manager, I don't think it was Mike Sheld. I think it was Mike Matheny at that time, who's now the manager of the Kansas City Royals. But Mike Matheny was very vocal. He was saying that, like, yeah, there needs to be a DH in the National League because it erases the chance that pitchers could get hurt swinging a bat. And I think Joe Girardi, who came from the AL and he's now in the NL as the manager of my Phillies, he also has been vocal about that as well. But I get the argument for both sides. Like the guys that are pro DH the NL, they don't want their pitchers getting hurt, and also the guys that are not in favor of it. They like how it keeps the strategy involved in the National League, because I think that I kind of like that, where when you, let's say, the eighth or the seventh place hitter gets on and the sixth and seventh place hitters get on, you have runners at first and second with nobody out. What do you do with the eighth place hitter? Are you going to pitch around him? Because a lot of people view the ninth place hitter, the pitcher, as like an automatic out. So what are you going to do with the eighth place hitter? And also with the ninth place hitter, is that pitcher going to bunt, or is that pitcher going to sacrifice himself or actually swing the bat and get a hit? So it does ruin some strategy involved with the game of baseball. And pertaining to the other rules, I would say, I'm not in favor of the defensive shifts. I really am not, because I think I like the defensive shifts. I think what the hitters need to do is they need to learn to hit to the opposite field. And, that's one of the biggest gripes that I have with Matt Olson as a hitter, is because whenever I watch him play, they're all shifted towards the right side, and you have the left side wide open, wide open. There's literally, the third baseman has moved, I believe, to either shortstop or second base. The entire left side is wide open, and if you hit like a ground ball to the left side, you're easily getting a double. And I don't understand why Matt Olson doesn't either bunt or just try to hit the ball to the opposite field. And like, I feel like those hitters, they need to adapt to this shift rather than eliminating it. You need to make the hitters learn to hit the opposite field, because that's what like hitters in the old days did. If you shifted them one way, they would just hit it to the opposite field and hit it to all sides of the ballpark. And the other rules, I would say, I'm in favor of all of them. The 7-inning doubleheaders. I'm not really a fan of that. I'm more of an old school baseball fan. I like the 9-inning doubleheaders. The runner on second base, I've never liked that rule from the get go, because I'm a guy that thinks that I'm a guy that thinks that you have to earn your points. You have to earn your runs. So I really don't like that rule. I like it this year because with COVID and, you want to keep the games short and you want to keep the exposure short. That rule can say just for this year, but not for next year or any other years in our time. And, I'm 50-50 about that last rule.
I, for one, will attack this head on and say you don't have to ban the shift, but limit it to one time per inning, no more, no less, because I think that a lot of reasons why people, Isaiah, are turning off baseball is surefire hits are being, gobbled up by David Fletcher or Manny Machado, shortstop or third baseman who are playing in middle right field. And CC Sabathia has been very vocal about that. I, for one, as someone who played the game, would say that the only time I ever shifted was to turn a double play. I mean, we weren't parked, anywhere else on the diamond in regards to being right behind the base at second or, halfway out in the outfield grass. But I say don't ban it, but limit the number of times per inning that a team can shift. Like one time, you're only allowed to do it one time, and that's it for the inning. The double headers, I do think that they still perhaps could I mean, I want them. They could go back to 9 innings still, but I still think that double headers need to kind of be used though more often in the early part of the year when the weather's out of control in the Midwest or back east. Please get rid of that runner on second base rule, and absolutely do not bring the DH rule to the National League. I totally get though, Isaiah, about player safety, but sadly though, my man, the pitcher is a position on the diamond. He has to hit for himself. And by the way, make these guys bunt, a lost art in the game.
Yes, Matt Olson, if you're listening to the show, please bunt. I've been clamoring for you to do that when I'm working A's games at the Coliseum. Please, if you bunted, if you bunted every time they shifted against you, I guarantee you, Callan, that he would be a 500 hitter right now in baseball.
I mean, I'm surprised that Will Myers, he's a, big right-hand hitter, and he's dropped on a couple of sweet bunt singles, a couple times with that third baseman playing way back. So please no DH in the National League. I know it's a player safety thing, but again, if he's pitching, it's a position on the diamond. He's got to hit for himself. Bunt. Simple as that. Or butcher boy it, show bunt, pull back, and slash one through if they're shifting over. And Ishmael, I agree, man. Please get rid of that runner on second base rule. And I believe that Commissioner Manfred actually came out, Isaiah, and said it was only a temporary ordeal because of COVID, and also along with that seven inning doubleheader rule as well. So I do see though where the commission is coming from though with those two rules.
Well, I'm glad that he said it was just temporary because, there was reports even before COVID, I think back in 2018, that they were experimenting putting this thing through permanently. So I don't know what changed. Maybe because they put it in and they didn't like how it was, or the fans just really, really hated it. Majority of fans just hated it. But I'm just glad that it's temporary, because when they first proposed it, I was like, nope, if you do that, I am not going to watch baseball again, because that's going to ruin the sport of baseball. Like, Callan, imagine a World Series being decided because there was a runner at second base to start, that the team in the top of the 10th gets, or they don't get it because either of a fluke play, and then in the bottom of the 10th, the other team bunts them to third, and it gets a sac fly, and they win the World Series because of it. That would have been the worst way to win a World Series, and I honestly would have felt cheated.
I believe that that rule was not going to be used in extra innings in the World Series last year, so it would not have mattered. So it is what it is. Sadly, Isaiah, to a point that we actually kind of attended, we talked about actually on Sunday's night shift, though, and it went, I think probably one of our more productive episodes and more productive conversation. But of course, though, Isaiah, the other big talking point, though, Sally Man, and does involve the A's, though, but also that baseball has in fact ruled, though, that Las Vegas has been ruled a viable location if in fact the A's or any club does choose to relocate out of their home city, though. But according, though, today to ESPN.com, and Alden Gonzalez, baseball commissioner Rob Manfred, has placed added pressure on East Bay officials on Tuesday, whether intentional or not, saying that the process of keeping the Oakland Athletics from relocating is, quote unquote, at the end, and stating that this is the decision point for Oakland as to whether they want to have Major League Baseball moving forward, close quote. Both the A's and baseball have deemed the site of the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, which has hosted the A's since 1968, to be a non-viable option, and have prioritized building a brand new waterfront ballpark in downtown Oakland at the Howard Site Terminal. The Oakland City Council will consider a non-binding term sheet for that project, which the A's have proposed privately funding for $1 billion on July 20th, the same day that the A's play the Angels at home at 12:37 p.m. in the afternoon. If the votes do not go in favor of the organization, the A's might look to relocate to Las Vegas, a city that they have been looking at for 3 different times in recent months. As now, though, the A's currently, so what is right now the Ring Central Coliseum, runs through 2024. But Commissioner Manfred said that calling Vegas, Commissioner Manfred did say that calling Las Vegas as a alternate site a bluff is a mistake. He goes on to say that Las Vegas is a viable alternative site for a major league club, and there are other viable alternatives that I haven't turned the A's loose to even explore at this point. This was again earlier on Tuesday with members of the BB or the BBWAA on the morning of today's All-Star game. Manfred, who does represent the owners, said that A's managing partner John J. Fisher has done everything I've asked him to do in terms of trying to keep the club in Oakland, and more than I've asked him to do in terms of financial commitments. So we're going to know one way or another what's going to happen in Oakland in the next couple of months. If you can't get a ballpark, I think the relocation process, whether it's Las Vegas or a broader array of cities that get considered, is going to take on more pace. So again, folks, to reiterate once more, but again, today Rob Manfred did in fact say that the process of keeping the Oakland A's in Oakland from relocation is at the end, and that this is the decision point going forward for Oakland, whether they want the team to stay in the Bay Area or not. Again, the A's in baseball have already deemed the Coliseum, again, a non-viable option, and have prioritized building a brand new ballpark in downtown Oakland at the Howard Terminal site. The City Council will again consider a non-binding term for that project, in which the A's have proposed to privately fund for $1 billion on July 20th, literally 1 week from today. And if the votes are not in favor of the ball club, the A's might in fact look to relocate to Las Vegas, a city, though, that has been visited by team officials at least 3 times in the past several months. And again, the A's, though, do have a lease with the Coliseum through at least 2024. And then also, Commissioner Manfred says that calling Vegas a bluff is a mistake. So again, Isaiah, we talked about this man briefly on Sunday on the night shift. But certainly, though, man, it is a very big talking point, though, I'd say, though, my man, that, that this, sadly, man, and you know me well, though, man, as someone who has seen a franchise leave their hometown because of, maybe the grass being greener on the other side of the fence, though. But certainly, Isaiah, like I said, though, on Sunday, man, but my heart breaks, though, for you and for the A's fans, though, Isaiah, who I kind of feel like, though, man, they've been stuck in this rabbit hole for what feels like a decade, if not longer. Even before Manfred's leadership came in, though. But I felt like, though, that the A's and Chargers, are so similar when they were in San Diego, when they were, in fact, or, with Oakland as well, and the Raiders as well. The Raiders and A's and the Chargers, all 3 teams are in the same boat because they just could not win over city politicians and city and county voters to approve a stadium project. Now, yes, it sounds great, though, with it being privately financed, though. But Isaiah, I know, man, it's been a very, very huge whirlwind, man. And again, I share your pain, as someone who lost their former football team here, man. But Isaiah, I know that you had said, though, on Sunday, man, that it's gotten very grim. But like I told you today, though, man, it's gotten grimmer as today has gone on, though. But Isaiah, give us first your thoughts on the reports, though, from Commissioner Manfred, though, that at this rate, though, it's almost at the end of the hourglass running out on Oaktown for baseball in the city of Oakland at this rate.
Well, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because as an A's fan, and also as an employee of the A's, I had known this for several weeks. After the meeting that Dave Cavall did with city council members, I believe it was last week. Callan, correct me if I'm wrong,
yes.
But yeah, I think it was last week.
It was pretty recent.
Yeah, it was a recent meeting. I think it was either last Wednesday or the Wednesday before. But that meeting did not go well. They presented all the plans that they had for the new ballpark, and for some reason, I don't know if it's John Fisher's fault or Dave Cavall's fault, but they left out the affordable housing solution. And when they were pressed about it, they were like, I don't know. And that's not good, because when you've been working on this project, this proposal for 4 years, and you don't include something that's in the law, I don't know what you've been doing for 4 years. So it has gotten grimmer. Dave Cavall always puts on his Twitter that it's July 20th is the biggest vote in the history of the city of Oakland, and I gotta agree with him. July 20th is the biggest vote in the history of the city of Oakland, and if they vote yes, then I think you could expect the A's to bring the shovels out and start constructing that new ballpark in the fall. But if it's a no, then the A's are gone. They're definitely going to be gone. There's no in between. There's no middle ground. It's either yes, we're going to start building, or it's no, and they are gone. So July 20th, it's decision time. It's decision day. It's the biggest vote in the history of the city of Oakland.
Isaiah, like I said, though, man, I kind of feel like though this whole thing, though, with the A's, along with the Raiders and even the Warriors, that the whole Coliseum, controversy has been going on since, like 10, 15, maybe 20 years, I kind of feel like, though, because of how, the A's have not been great or they weren't good for a while. Moneyball, I'm sure, though, of course, helped kind of turn that club back around, though, in 2002 with the whole Moneyball philosophy and stuff like that. But then you go back to losing seasons after 2002. But Isaiah, I think back, though, to all of like the nearer chances of oh, San Jose would be great. Fremont would be great. Cisco Field's going to be coming. But no, no, no. Strike one, strike two, strike three. And I don't know if they've proposed anything on the Coliseum project. But I know, though, of course, Isaiah, much like it was here in San Diego, city politicians and city voters versus the big bad corporation normally doesn't go very well. But Isaiah, maybe along with the A's, though, Isaiah, what maybe in your mind led to minus, obviously, Isaiah, minus new venues, along with maybe the A's leaving, Isaiah. But as someone, though, like yourself, who's been in the Bay Area for a long time, what other factors away from stadiums or, new plush estates, though, why do you think, though, in your mind, why do you believe the Warriors and the Raiders and maybe the A's will all leave Oakland or did leave Oakland in past seasons?
Well, I think it's a couple of reasons. I think number one, it's the mayor's fault. I've never liked the mayor of Oakland. I thought that she always says that any stadium that you're going to build, any new project that you're going to build, it cannot involve taxpayer money. And I know that sounds, great to everybody out there, but let's face it, guys. A project that doesn't include some taxpayer money, I don't know where to find that. Like you're definitely like not gonna, you're not gonna find a project that doesn't have just a little bit of taxpayer money.
SoFi Stadium.
SoFi Stadium, yeah, you have that, but a lot like Oakland. The thing about Oakland is a lot of these teams just don't have that much money, and I know the Warriors, they had their run, but before that they weren't really that good, and that's why they moved to San Francisco to go to that privately financed stadium. It's just a bigger city, bigger market, and then. I just think it's the mayor. I feel like the mayor wasn't really working fairly with the Raiders. I know Mark Davis. I felt like Mark Davis honestly had one foot out the door anyways, because he was always eyeing Las Vegas. Because when you compare Las Vegas and Oakland, there's no comparison, man. Like you're obviously gonna move to Las Vegas. I just don't think that Mark Davis, I don't really think he was really interested in staying in Oakland, even though the Raiders had such a great fan base, because obviously he's not going to turn down, Vegas, one of the most attractive tourism capitals in the world, versus Oakland. So I think that's why the Raiders left. The Warriors, I just felt like the Warriors honestly just wanted to go to a bigger market. I really do. I felt like, with Oakland, yes, it was city politics and stuff like that going on, but I felt like the Warriors just kind of wanted to mimic the San Francisco Giants and build their new arena at the by the waterfront, so they can draw like more fans, not just from Oakland. Because Callan, you and I both know this, that Oakland's a very dangerous place. It is a very dangerous place. I've been there. You've been there. Traveling at BART at night. It's a really, really bad place. And I think that's kind of another one of the reasons why these teams are leaving Oakland. Besides, what's going on with the city, it's the fact that it's just not a good place. It really is not. And the Coliseum site is in one of the bad parts of Oakland. And, you don't want to have like after an event, you have like fans getting, killed by homeless people or dangerous criminals out there that are waiting for them at the BART station or waiting for them around the arena. I've seen cars get jacked into, there's people's tires get slashed. So I've seen a lot of, just terrible stuff going on at the Coliseum site. So I think like that's another one of the reasons why a lot of these, teams are just leaving Oakland in general.
Isaiah, we have about 5 minutes left before we go to commercial break, and we thank you again for coming on to the lounge. We'll have you back on a bit later on to talk about a couple of network milestones coming up here shortly. But certainly, Isaiah, like I said, I've been, been through the meat grinder already of having one team leave with the Chargers, of course, going to Los Angeles. And certainly, Isaiah, I've thought a lot about today and hearing and reading that story today from ESPN.com about the toll it takes on the fan base. I know that the A's fan base is kind of, not really come out in full support of the organization because, of the losing. If you're not winning, we're not going to come and watch. As people call San Diego sports fans, Isaiah, fair weather fans, when they finally are winning, they finally come out and support the ball club. But Isaiah, I do think, though, that we talked about this, like I said, though, man, on Sunday. But certainly, though, man, I'm starting to kind of get like that very bad feeling in my stomach, though, for that game next Tuesday when they play the Angels. A 12:37 game time. But I believe that the vote, as you said, that was supposed to be sometime like an hour before this game or half an hour before the game does begin. But Isaiah, I think more about the fans, though, but more so, Isaiah, when do you believe, though, that the fan revolt against the A's may in fact begin, where maybe people, come to the Coliseum and start burning their jerseys or burning their hats, like kind of like what happened here in San Diego, basically, where people literally drove to the Charger headquarters at 5:00 in the morning and were, booing and, making remarks towards the building, but also, we're making signs and we're throwing all their Charger merchandise into a giant pile to light on fire and stuff like that, though, Isaiah. When do you believe, though, that maybe that people or fans maybe may go down that path, though, and kind of begin to show, their animosity or begin to revolt against the Oakland Athletics?
Well, I think it's already happened. I really think it's happened because, Callan, I think I said this on Sunday, that there was a game against either the Angels or Mariners, one of those two teams, that the A's were playing, and it was a Tuesday night game, and Dave Cavall had gone to a Vegas Golden Knights game, and a playoff game, and he was like posting on Twitter how, oh my God, look at how crazy of an atmosphere this is, and how great of a building this is. And ever since then, I feel like the fans have been turned off by him and also by the organization, because we know that he is kind of like a parrot of John Fisher. So whatever he does, it's basically coming from John Fisher, the owner. So he's been in Las Vegas multiple times, and every time he's in Vegas and he tweets something from Vegas, his the comments on that tweet is not good. Fans at that game and also at other games, when they see his tweet, they're always starting an "F-U Cavall" chant that's going on in the stadium. And I just think, we're at the beginning of it right now, where the fans are starting to slowly turn against the Oakland A's. But I think where it's going to be, or where it's going to reach the pinnacle, is when that vote happens. July 20th. If they vote no, I think July 20th, that game is going to be very ugly when it comes to fans in the stands. And also, who knows, like, fans in the stands might start throwing stuff onto the field. They might, get into fights. They might fight employees, this and that. And I think, in the days and the weeks afterwards, you're going to see that as well. Maybe people going to the Coliseum and burning stuff before games, burning their tickets live and just filming it, or, going to A's headquarters in Jack London Square. And because, Callan, the people of Oakland, how rough Oakland is. They're going to do a lot of crazy stuff. So I hope, for the safety of the people that are working in the organization that are not affiliated or associated with this decision, that I pray for their safety, because I don't want them to be working in that A's headquarters building in Jack London Square, and all of a sudden you have the building burning, because that's how pissed off the fans are.
Isaiah Leung, thank you for your time, man. We'll see you a bit later in the show at this time, but thanks, man, for dropping by, and we'll be back with you shortly.
All right, sounds good, man. Carry on, my man.
With that, folks, we'll step aside for a moment. When we come back, plenty of more coverage here, NBA, some NHL talk and MLS talk on the way after this quick timeout. And we'll be right back here, folks, momentarily. But Sports Lounge will roll on for our numero dos coming up in just a moment. Now that Phoenix has national was taking their licks, it's by far the Clippers. Though now, albeit without Kristaps Porzingis and that injury he suffered, though, get over the playoff hump. You're able to knock them. Oh my goodness, here we go again. And I think you need your best guy out there again. With Jazz upper brass for this because of COVID, covering up his eye after he's a home. That, guys, is the great 25 years. Finally, for one game. But Ja Morant is the truth. I am telling you, fellas. Hour 2 of the Sports Lounge rolling on, folks. A major thank you to our good man, Isaiah Leung from the MI6 Sports Network, dropping by and talking a little bit of baseball again, the All-Star break, but of course, the very big story, though, involving his hometown Oakland A's, who again, folks, are right now on the fringe of perhaps by way of a city council vote literally next Tuesday, perhaps either staying in Oakland or going to perhaps Las Vegas or perhaps another variety of towns or cities across the country for a potential new home for Major League Baseball. But again, folks, we have one more hour left. We'll have Isaiah back actually at the top of the hour as we, in fact, folks, have some other great news to talk about here involving the network itself. With that, though, folks, some NBA news today, though. Again, we are right now holding off on Game 3 of the NBA Finals. As again, the Suns and Bucks will hook up again for Game 4 on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time from Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, live on ABC, though, folks. But however, though, somewhat of a very eyebrow-raising or interesting story broke, though, within the last 3 to 4 hours, though, everyone. That is Kawhi Leonard of the Clippers undergoing successful ACL surgery. That, of course, folks, has somewhat been a little bit of an eyebrow-raising story for some people because, of course, Kawhi missed the entire conference final versus Phoenix. Though, but, folks, more so for me, though, I'm a little bit puzzled as to why did this news and why did his surgery come out right now when the Clippers have been out of the postseason for a while and we're right now on a off day in the NBA Finals. And certainly, folks, I mean, I get that Kawhi was hurt, though. But, folks, I don't know if you agree with me here on this talking point, though. But to me, though, this seems to be very strange, though, that the Clippers never once announced that Kawhi was, going under the knife for surgery or stuff like that. And I certainly kind of wonder here, though, as to why did this now come out? And because again, I know, of course, though, folks, that Kawhi was listed as, questionable or out for, the rest of the series with Utah and out for the conference final. But I think I'm more like perplexed, though, as to why all of a sudden is this now coming out in regards to Kawhi, having surgery, that maybe there could have been like some better communication, I think, done or made by the Clips, by the front office, by the PR department, Kawhi himself maybe. But I certainly, though, I'm happy that he got the surgery, though. But I do, though, folks, wonder, though, is I know, of course, that sports is all about gamesmanship and about, it's like playing poker. You don't want to, you don't want your opponent to see what kind of hand you got, that you're holding right now. But I do wonder, though, as to, why was this move not really talked about, not really a very big talking point over the past, couple of days. But I certainly, though, folks, a little puzzled. But again, folks, thankfully, Kawhi Leonard has, in fact, though, undergone successful surgery to repair that torn ACL, and hopefully he'll bounce back beautifully for the Clippers or for his next destination coming up very, very shortly over in the NBA. Also, folks, some other big news today in the NHL. Longtime Nashville Predators goaltender Pekka Rinne announced his plans today to retire after over a decade of playing in goal for the Nashville Predators, folks, and being by far one of the best goaltenders in franchise history. And mainly, folks, I think that mainly for me, the first true superstar or first true star player that I would think that the Predators had as a jumpstart organization, that David Pohl has done a phenomenal job as their team GM, though. And that with Nashville, folks, I know that right now that they may, in fact, folks, be in line for the A's to move there maybe in the future. And that the Titans are also playing in Nashville. But, folks, I don't think I've seen one city that has multiple sports organizations fall in love with one team so quickly in recent years than Nashville with the Predators. You know, those games, folks, at Bridgestone Arena, that may be one of the more hostile environments to play in the NHL. And I know we talk about, oh, it's a hostile environment every single game, in this market or that market. But that Nashville, folks, you can call it, being bandwagon fans or stuff like that, though. But certainly, with the recent success there in Nashville with the Preds, that city is becoming a huge hockey town. I say that a lot, folks, about San Diego. I don't think if I were to tell you that San Diego has had hockey since the 40s or since 1960 or since the 60s, I think you would think that I was, that I had put down a 12-pack of beer. That I don't think that you out there would think that San Diego, California would have had hockey since the 40s, the 50s, the 60s into where we're at today, despite having, a pretty lengthy time away from the sport, though, that I think that a majority of you out there would not think of San Diego as a hockey town. And I always say that San Diego, California is a hockey town because of how this city had fallen in love with the game. But that Nashville is just like that. But more so because of players like Pekka Rinne, who has become, probably, like I said, one of the more notable names in Predators franchise history. Yes, Shea Weber before he got dealt to Montreal. Mike Fisher, Victor Arvidsson before he got dealt to the Kings. So many young, promising kids there in Nashville. Peter Laviolette coaching that club for so long too. But folks, Pekka Rinne, wishing him all the best. So again, this guy, basically became a franchise icon, though, was the cornerstone of that club that got to the Cup final but lost to Pittsburgh in 2017, 2018. And really, kind of in a way put that Predator franchise on the map when, in fact, he was picked up and signed by the Preds. Couple of thoughts real quick from my good man Ishmael. He's asking, first off, Callan, what do you think of Mark Stein's report that the Lakers are examining ways to bring back Lonzo Ball via free agency, whether that's via sign or trade or just a simple signing? I, for one, think that am not against it. But how, though, will he play with LeBron James is the only question I really have, though, in this thing here, though. Will Pelinka pull the trigger? Maybe. But I know, though, that a lot of those young kids, though, in New Orleans probably want out because I think they're probably tired, though, of the coaching philosophy and that they really didn't get a chance to really groom or shine down there. But we'll see what the Lakers do, in fact, though. And also, Ishmael is asking, do you believe that Kawhi is out for next season because of the ACL injury? Because it typically takes about 10 months to a year to come back. I think he's done for next season. I think if he's getting the surgery now, 10 months is going to be August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, I don't see him coming back. I mean, if it's 10 months, it would be looking at July, August, September, October, November, December. There's 5. January, February, March, April, May. That would mean the playoffs. I don't see Kawhi coming back, though, sadly, next season. We'll see what happens, though. And also, Ishmael's asking, the A's in Nashville? Well, Ishmael, here's the scoop here on this thing. There is a group right now headed by Justin Timberlake and a couple of other, famed Tennessee residents. And maybe, don't quote me here, man, but I think I heard it was Timberlake, who's also a minority owner, I believe, of the Grizzlies, along with, I want to say, some investors in Nashville trying to get a major league franchise to come to the city. I don't know where they would play. They have a AAA team right now there, I believe, for the Brewers, I think, playing there in Nashville right now. But it's been rumored about Nashville. I've heard about, obviously, Vegas is one thing. I've heard about Nashville. I've also heard about Charlotte and also Portland, Oregon, and, of course, Montreal. But I don't know the full scoop about Nashville's bid right now. We'll see how things go. And also, Isaiah's back. He writes in to say that he would take Lonzo or Colin Sexton, as we talked about on Monday on Wild Sports Talk. And also, Isaiah saying that the Clippers will be screwed again if, in fact, the Kawhi is out. But also, but more than anything else, though, I think, Isaiah, the Clippers are more screwed in my mind, buddy, because they have no first round draft picks. I mean, they're all gone, goodbye, dead, buried, and gone, and they're with other organizations. And I think that's what more so I think is going to set this club back a couple years, though, because you don't have that chance to draft, a very high potential budding, potential franchise altering superstar in that first round, though, again, with them losing, draft picks because of the trades that they made or the trade that they made with Oklahoma City. And also, Isaiah's asking, Callan, do you believe that Kawhi opts out now? Does Kawhi opt out now? That's the big question. This is another KD situation, not a tenuous one, but still, I think he probably, Isaiah, it's hard for me to tell. And I only say that, though, because Kawhi is playing against somewhere close to home in being close to home. But I think that with how maybe the Clippers as an organization have been run, but I still kind of think, though, with Kawhi having his family kind of in hot water with Jerry West in that whole off-the-court scandal that kind of broke over the offseason, I don't know if Kawhi wants to hang around. I really don't think he wants to hang around anymore with the Clippers, and then he wants to go in somewhere else. And I know that he's kind of been like maybe the one guy against the rule about staying with one organization. Again, he left the Spurs with a ring. He went to the Raptors, won a ring, left there, went to the Clippers, tried to help them win a ring, didn't help out, though. But I think, though, Isaiah, he does not, that I don't think Kawhi himself wants to be involved with a ongoing, somewhat of a, hot mess organization still in the Clippers. I mean, believe me, I love Steve Ballmer. I love his energy. It's infectious. That's a guy I would love to play for. If I played basketball, but that there's still just like this toxic, chemistry with this Clippers ball club. Pat Beverly and his antics, Kawhi and Paul George, they didn't really, like I said, though, last year, Isaiah, one night Kawhi plays, Paul George sits out. One day Paul George plays, Kawhi sits out. Then he had all the infighting, though, about, Kawhi was living in San Diego. Paul George would sit out practices. Kawhi could sit out practice any day of the week. Kawhi was living in San Diego. He would be late for flights out of LAX, and just so much, so much infighting and such a struggle, with how that this Clippers team could not do this. You had, maybe they were close, but then they were light years apart. I don't know, though, how, in fact, Kawhi reevaluates the situation. And also, Ishmael says, but Cal, who would take Kawhi, though, with his injury now and give him the max since he most likely won't play next season? Good point. Good point. I would think, though, that this is kind of like, in a way, though, I think, Ishmael, to a point that we talked about on Monday's episode of WST, though, about maybe the Warriors parting ways with Klay Thompson to get Damian Lillard from the Blazers. Why on earth would Portland want damaged goods? To your point, Ishmael, what NBA club out there wants to receive damaged goods? Who wants to go to a press conference and have a player show up there and have him be tagged with, hey, fragile, handle with care, or him wrapped in bubble wrap when he gets to the airport because he's coming off of an injury? I don't see any team out there, sadly, wanting to gamble on a player like Klay Thompson or even a Kawhi Leonard because they are, in fact, right now, damaged goods at this rate, though, because of the injury. It sucks, Ishmael, but I think you're right, though. You are right. Who's out there to do that? Then again, though, sadly, Ishmael, Kendrick Perkins called my beloved Milwaukee Bucks the dumbest team in NBA Finals history, I think. So, who knows? But then again, ESPN hates small market cities anyway. Christy Wilson also says, I think that Kawhi is, in fact, done with the Clippers, as do I. I think, though, Christy, not because of the injury. I think he probably, though he won't ever admit it, I think he's getting fed up and tired of the circus that is the Clippers organization. Believe me, God bless Steve Ballmer's heart. I love the guy to death, though. But I think there's more so it's the roster itself, though. The coaching, maybe it's the coaching. But that when teams don't do this, Christy, it doesn't work. If you have, like I say a lot, though, folks, Herb Brooks, the legendary head coach of the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team who beat the Soviets, he said about making his roster, because at that time, folks, and still to this day, that there was a big rivalry between Boston University and the Minnesota Golden Gophers in ice hockey. And famously in the movie Miracle, done by Disney Studios, Jack O'Callahan and Rob McClanahan had a full-on regular fist fight in a practice because of something that happened in a college national title game where O'Callahan got cheap shotted and he got tossed from the game, and in Boston lost the title game to the Golden Gophers, and he blamed McClanahan for what happened. And Herb Brooks flat out said, though, years after that team, though, you had to kind of blur the boundaries of the country. You have, and in team sports, Christy, to your point here about Kawhi and more so about team chemistry, as I said, though, and as someone who's played, and someone who played, for for a good part of his life playing games, is you can't have pockets of individuals. But the mentality of team sports folks has to be we, us, and ourselves. This is not I, me, myself. This isn't golf. This isn't tennis. This isn't ping pong. This isn't a one man or one person sport. This is a full team effort. It's we, us, and ourselves, not me, myself, and I. And like I said, though, Christy, that's what separates organizations like the Clippers from teams like the Lakers, the Bucks, and the Suns right now, who are playing in the finals, both Milwaukee and Phoenix, because they have this. They have continuity. They have chemistry. They have guys who generally love each other. The Clippers didn't. They were too wishy-washy. They never did this. They never gelled. They were never meshed like a unit. They were always, one guy would say, nope, I don't want to play today, whatever. So to your point, I think that Kawhi is sadly done with the Clippers. And also, Christy says that Callan, some team out there is crazy enough to take a chance on him. I really don't want to see it happen, but sadly, someone may in fact take that gamble. But Christy, in a way, though, it's like the Padres. They traded for Mike Clevenger from the Indians, not knowing he would have to have Tommy John surgery over the offseason. But here they signed him to a contract, but he's missing 1 full year because of the injury. And he should be back next season. But certainly, I'm not going to I'm not calling my hometown team stupid. Certainly Clevenger's a great pitcher. But again, you can't plan, though, for guys to get hurt, or you can't prepare yourself for guys to get hurt. So, maybe, in fact, though, a team does sign Kawhi and say, you know what, take the year. We'll be all right. Come back, fully healthy the year after that. But again, who really knows, though? Ishmael also says, Callan, crazy idea, buddy. If Kawhi really wants out of L.A., the Clippers should sign and trade him to Cleveland for Sexton and Kevin Love. The Cavs are rebuilding and can let him recover and then build around him. And the Clippers get a young budding star that can play Robin to Paul George, and you have Kevin Love as well. This would be the only chance the Cavs get a star since LeBron. It's like what the Pistons tried to do with Blake Griffin. Ishmael, for one, it's not a crazy idea. Certainly, though, but again, though, will the Clippers, though, be able to will they be able, though, to kind of put the big boy pants on, though, and make a move like this, though? Now, yes, I will give him credit, though, Ishmael, for doing it, though, with Paul George and Leonard. But will they want to do it, though, for a third time? The Lakers maybe could pull off this move, maybe with because I think, though, that maybe more so that the Lakers, maybe in my mind, have a couple more assets, maybe, where I think kind of puts them a bit over the, kind of one step up the ladder from the Clippers, because you probably could deal away Kuzma and also deal away a first-round draft pick. Something, Mr. Lancaster, that the Clippers don't have. So maybe that the Lakers, if between the two teams, the Lakers may, not a homer pick here, but that the Lakers, to me, though, make more sense because they have more assets, in my mind, over the Clippers because of like a Kuzma, a THT, maybe a Alex Caruso, but also draft pick availability. Yeah, I know that the Lakers probably don't have a lot of their first-round picks either, though. But I think that on the roster, that the Lakers, to me, though, I think have a bit more, just a few more assets over what maybe that the Clippers could offer, though. But I do think, though, Ishmael, great point, and it's certainly, man, it's not even close to being a crazy idea. I like the thought process a lot. And also, Christy Wilson says, I have no faith in the Cavs pulling off a move like that. I think a lot of people, sadly, I think Ryan Schreiner would agree, though, about how incompetent that franchise has been. Also, folks, two quick stories here real quick before we get to Isaiah Young again here at the top of the hour. The Minnesota Wild, we had a couple of also very eyebrow-raising moves today, though. They chose and elected to buy out two bona fide key cogs of their team over the past couple of seasons recently in regards to two buyouts that could, in fact, take some of the load off of the contracts, folks. But they buy out the contracts, though, of both Ryan Sutter and Zach Parise earlier on Tuesday, per ESPN.com and per Emily Kaplan. But both the Wild are buying out the last 4 years of both Zach Parise and Ryan Sutter's contracts, as the team announced on Tuesday. Both Parise and Sutter, both age 36, though, matching who both signed matching 13-year deals worth $98 million on the 4th of July in 2012. Though the Wild did swooped in to sign Sutter away from the Predators and Parise away from the Devils, viewing the Minnesota natives as prize free agents and signings who would have helped shape the franchise. The moves, though, folks, do in fact clear up, though, 2 protected spots, though, for the Wild ahead of next week's expansion draft for the upcoming Seattle Kraken, as both Parise and Sutter both had no movement clauses in their contracts. Per sources, Wild GM Bill Guerin called Parise and Sutter to inform them of the team's decision this week, and both players have the desire to, in fact, keep playing the sport. Parise, a winger, Sutter, a D-man, helped the Wild to run of 6 straight playoff appearances, immediately following or arriving in 2012. The Wild missed the postseason only once in the Parise and Sutter era, but the team never made it out or past round number 2. The Wild's top priority, though, the Wild's top priority this offseason is signing 24-year-old winger Kirill Kaprizov to an extension, presumably to be the next face of the franchise, as he scored 27 goals with 55, scored 27 goals, I should say, in 55 games played last season before became the first Wild player to take home the Calder Memorial Trophy. The other big priority, though, is to re-sign winger Kevin Fiala, who has flourished since coming to Minnesota via trade with Nashville in 18-19, as Fiala at age 24 has 43 goals in 114 games played for Minnesota over the past 2 seasons. Both buyouts, though, folks, do in fact create roughly $10.33 million in cap space for Minnesota, as the Wild will in fact pay both Parise and Sutter $6.7 million over the next 8 years, but will have the upwards of $13 million in dead space against the cap in both 2023, both 2022 and 2023, and also 24 and 25. Sadly, folks, this is where expansion drafts get very, very convoluted, because this is a very interesting move made here. Because now, of course, though, folks, with this draft coming up, though, next week, you can't protect all your star players, sadly, and that Seattle, basically has the right to pick whoever they want, though. And you can't protect all the studs, sadly. But more so that this, I think, though, for one, I think, though, begins a new chapter for the Wild, though, because again, this Kaprizov kid, folks, to me seems to be the real deal with the Wild, though. And I also love Kevin Fiala, but Parise and Sutter, though, folks, added a lot of depth, but also were the faces of this Wild franchise, though, who, again, though, they've been, very, very consistent recently, though, but just can't get over that hurdle, sadly, in the postseason right now, though. But certainly, though, folks, Fiala has played great. Kaprizov is the real deal, if you ask me, right now with the Wild, and certainly could be a bona fide star for the Wild, certainly coming up, though. But at the same time, though, this, I think, though, folks, that you're going to see a lot more of these moves made, though, over the next several days and the week leading up to the expansion draft, though, because again, you can't protect all your studs, though, folks, can't be protected during the course of the draft, though, because of how effective it's so tough, though, to try to protect everyone. Again, you can only protect X amount of players, though. You can't protect everyone out there, but that certainly, though, folks, that I think that both these guys, though, have plenty of gas in the tank, though. I know they're kind of up there in age, though, but certainly, though, folks, the Wild, though, having to, as the Wild, do, in fact, though, folks, buy out longtime stars Zach Parise and Ryan Sutter. Again, both those players, though, folks, signed matching 13-year deals worth $98 million all the way back in 2012, though. And the Wild will, in fact, though, folks, have about $13 million in dead space against the cap for both 2022-23 and 2024-25, as both Parise and Sutter will be paid roughly $6.7 million over the next 8 years by the Wild organization. Also, Isaiah Leung also writes in to say, can't wait to have Chris Fedor to hop on Friday's edition of Wild Sports Talk and clarify all of our questions and thoughts on Colin Sexton as well. But definitely, folks, see how, in fact, things do go. With that, folks, over, though, in Major League Soccer, the Seattle Sounders, folks, continue a very insane run right now as they remain, folks, on a very impressive unbeaten streak right now. And more so, it's the question right now, is it basically Seattle versus the MLS field atmosphere as the Sounders shut out Houston 2-0 last week to continue this very insane 13 straight unbeaten matches as they have tied the Kansas City Wizards and Real Salt Lake unbeaten games right now in Major League Soccer. And certainly, folks, I don't know where to start here. This Seattle team, folks, has been a juggernaut so far this MLS season. I really, folks, don't know where to start, though. But that Brian Schmetzer, a former member of the San Diego Sockers, I don't think, folks, that Schmetzer gets enough credit, though, for how this Seattle team, with really not a lot of household soccer names, just dominates or has dominated to start this campaign. I mean, 13 straight, 13 games unbeaten. That's winning or tying. And they surpassed, four really great teams in the Galaxy twice, the Wizards, and also with Real Salt Lake, though, that honestly, I mean, who out there really, folks, is going to be able to stop the Seattle Sounders right now? I really think right now that, the Galaxy have looked okay. LAFC is kind of a little bit in influx right now, though. But honestly, though, I don't see how Seattle, barring injuries or barring a bad stretch here, or barring, or really right now, barring anything, I honestly don't see how the Seattle Sounders team is not going to win another MLS Cup. Because maybe minus Jordan Morris and a few other guys, this is a scrappy group of players. And Brian Schmetzer, I believe, folks, does not get the credit that he rightfully, in my mind, deserves. Because here's a guy, folks, who really, I would probably say he's not really a household name in American soccer. He is here, though, in San Diego, having been a part, though, of a couple of soccer's title-winning teams here with the indoor soccer team here, and that Schmetzer was a very key cog of those indoor teams. But that Brian Schmetzer, I believe, though, I really think, though, that Brian Schmetzer has got to win Coach of the Year. If Seattle continues this, insane tear over the entire part of the season, with really, like I said, though, folks, not a lot of household names. Jordan Morris, yeah, you had Clint Dempsey for a while, but there's just not a lot of, household names on this roster. But that Brian Schmetzer, I think it really starts with Schmetzer, just getting these guys to believe in themselves, though. And here, though, folks, at Seattle, I believe has gotten to the Cup final, I want to say, 3 years in a row, roughly. They did win in 2019, I believe. I know they beat LAFC, and then I think they won it. And then they lost to Columbus, and they lost to Columbus in 2020. But right now, though, I just don't know, though, if anyone out there can really stop this Seattle juggernaut right now again. But players obviously have players are part of it, though. But I truly believe, though, that Brian Schmetzer is the main reason, folks, as to why right now at Seattle, at this stage right now of the season, is kind of getting my vote of confidence right now for the front runner right now for the MLS Cup final right now. Because this streak, folks, is absolutely insane. I mean, just in perspective, folks, right now, before we in fact get to Isaiah Leung and get to our last call and get to some more closing thoughts here right now. Seattle right now is 8-0-5. And they're right now one game essentially clear of Sporting KC for first place. And then out east right now, New England is at 24 points, and they're still behind Seattle right now. But right now in the West, let's see. Seattle right now gets my vote. KC seems to be intriguing right now. The Galaxy will fall apart if Chicharito gets hurt again. The Rapids, okay. LAFC, influx right now. Can't protect the lead at this rate. RSL, team in transition right now still. The Loons of Minnesota, up and down again. Still very consistent. Houston could be better at this rate. Portland, talk about a team falling from grace right now who's been a very consistent winner in Major League Soccer with Portland. Austin, new team, I'll give them a break. The Quakes, once again, going down Madrid as usual, sadly, up in the Bay Area. Dallas, very rough stretch for FC Dallas, and Vancouver, also very rough right now. I really, folks, don't see anyone out west right now. Maybe minus Kansas City challenging the Sounders right now at this stage right now of the season. The Galaxy, in my mind, will probably fall apart, sadly, if in fact that Javier Chicharito Hernandez goes down in flames with another injury. If LAFC can finally get Carlos Vela going and solve their defensive woes and their goaltending situation, maybe. Sporting KC seems to be the only team, maybe, who could stop Seattle right now out west. Out east, though, I really don't think that anyone out east has a chance right now. Again, it's just at this juncture right now. Maybe New England, maybe Orlando, maybe Philadelphia, but at the same time, though, if the Sounders, though, folks, win the Supporters Shield, I'm saying no thanks, because I think you folks know very well, though, in sports, if you're winning the best overall record, you're bound to lose in the postseason. There's the whole curse of the President's Trophy in hockey, stuff like that. Supporters Shield, I'm a little lenient about, so we'll see how, in fact, things go, though. But certainly the folks, the Seattle Sounders on a 8-0-5 start. It is the longest unbeaten streak to begin the season in Major League Soccer history. Some thoughts here real quick. At this rate, Christy Wilson first says, the Sounders are tearing it up right now again, 8-0-5 at this rate and at this point in time. Ishmael says, Cal, any predictions for the second half of the baseball season? My predictions right now, the Giants won't win every other day, it seems like, and they won't be able to keep up this pace. I really hope, though, that the Padres kind of get the rotation back in order, certainly with the Padres more so, but prediction-wise, I like where I'm at right now with the Padres at least making the postseason. The Brewers playing great right now in the NL Central. Will the Mets hang on to first place with how bad the NL East is? Probably not at this rate. Will the Braves ever get going? Who knows? Will the Yankees ever get healthy? Who knows? Will the Angels still be able to ride the wave of Shohei Ohtani? Maybe, maybe not. Will the Astros be able to still hang on to first place? I think so. And stuff of that caliber. Will the White Sox finally get their guys healthy? Who knows? But certainly, we'll see how things go. Ishmael also says, Cal, I will go with Seattle over the field. Definitely agree. I mean, at this rate, with where they're at, and also Christie agrees that I can't see any team right now beating the Seattle Sounders. With that, folks, it is now time to go over. And guess what, folks? It is now last call.
Last call.
We, folks, welcome back our good man Isaiah LeYoung back to the Sports Lounge on this Tuesday night. Isaiah, glad to have you back aboard, man. And I know that not much has changed though over the past roughly hour or 45 minutes or so, my man. And certainly you've been hanging out watching the program backstage here tonight, though. But certainly, though, Isaiah, I know, man, that we, of course, have enjoyed, I think, over the past several, on certain programs, and kind of sitting back, relaxing, and just talking about MI6 as a whole, though, my man, and certainly, Isaiah, for the right reasons, for a couple of very, very awesome things, though. But first, though, my man, is what I want to get to, though, Isaiah, is the fact that right now, that, I mean, if you can believe it, folks, that, after basically a year and a half of doing programming here on the 6, that we're closing in on 100,000 total views across all of our Facebook videos, our YouTube shorts, and our Anchor podcast listens. That, Isaiah, we are literally, though, man, staring down the barrel of 2 milestones. Hopefully, by the time I go to Florida in August for my first vacation in over a year and a half. And certainly, Isaiah, I know that we enjoy, or probably, I would say enjoy that, but certainly that we do talk about this a lot, though maybe people think, oh, this is redundant, quit padding your stats, but it's like, but at the same time, Isaiah, though, as we have said, though, on this program, on the Thanksgiving special, the Halloween Spectacular, on a lot of these programs, though, Isaiah, that if you would have told us, it's like the whole ESPN 30 for 30 monologue. What if I told you that a YouTube channel started by Isaiah and Steven at a Costco gas station and them, talking sports while they're driving around the Bay Area would grow into what it has grown into, with adding people, adding shows, adding more content, and doing it for one, to keep you sane because of a ongoing global crisis, but also to inform and entertain an audience, and to see how it has taken off basically since you started this thing, man, back in March. And if I were to tell you that by July of 2021, after, over a year and a half of producing content, that you would be able to say that you would have gotten to 5,000 podcast listens and 100,000 total views on your programming, when this all started at a gas station and it was a bunch of random strangers and a bunch of strangers who came together and did it because that they love sports, they were bored in quarantine, they wanted to stay mentally sane and mentally happy, and that it's grown to what it's grown to not just sports talk and having some of the biggest names in sports join these podcasts, but it's formed a beautiful team, a beautiful brotherhood, a beautiful family of friends. I would have said, though, that when I got dragged back into, or not, I shouldn't say, not saying drag back, but when I got back into podcasting, that I would have as much fun as I have had being with you, Isaiah, and with the entire crew here. I would have said, I don't have time for this. I can't do this. I'm already busy with what I have to do with my actual jobs within the industry, though. But yeah, I'll do it. I could not have been more wrong about maybe where in fact this number has gone, though. But Isaiah, more so, what do these milestones, and I know that we really don't make it about ourselves, though, because again, we're just here having fun and maybe having some playful banter. But really, though, Isaiah, if you really took all the stuff seriously about the anchor listens or the viewership, what really, though, would you probably say, though, about how special that this year and a half, though it's had its ups and downs, though, how has it been, though, for you specifically, though, as, one of the founders of MI6 Sports?
Wow, man. Reaching 100,000 will be insane, because I don't even think me and Steven, when we first just put out our phones and just started recording each other talking sports in the car, I don't even think we ever thought that we would reach like 1,000, much less 100,000. So for us to reach that milestone, or like closing in on it, it's just surreal, man. It really is, because we first started it because we just both love talking sports. I know Steven was saying a bunch of ludicrous takes. That's how this network got going. I put out my phone and wanted to get him on the record. Like, can you believe that, Callan? I wasn't the one that started this network by something ridiculous. It wasn't me. It was Stephen Wang who was saying something ridiculous that got the network going. So that started, and then honestly, like it's just been really surreal, like every step that we've taken along the way, whether it was turning this from carpool chats into quarantine chats, sitting down with Trevor, Ryan, with myself, Steven, I believe Furman would join us sometimes. From that, and then we reached, I believe, 500 views, and I was already blown away, because I was like, man, we reached 500 views on one of our programs. Like, that's insane. Since all of our other programs, we couldn't even crack 100, and we cracked 500. So there was that, and then like when we're doing this, doing quarantine chats for quite some time, we go and we interview Mark Medina, and it was a guy that I bumped into at the Oracle Arena when I was back working for the Golden State Warriors. And Mark Medina, he really had a big impact on my life. He was a guy that I was talking to him. I was asking him, like, hey, I like sports, but I really don't know what I want to do in sports. I have a big mouth. I love talking. I think Callan would agree with that. Whether it's about sports or whether it's about anything. But I was talking to Mark Medina, and I was telling him, like, I've always wanted to be like a Stephen A. Smith, or be like a Skip Bayless, or be like one of those guys that would, go on ESPN and talk sports, or go on Fox, talk sports. I've always, looked up to those guys, and I've always wanted to be one of those guys, but I kind of didn't want to go into it because, I didn't want the backlash. I didn't want to, like, one of my takes, and then you have people like blasting me on Twitter like every single day, or making memes out of me. And then he just said, like, don't care about what people, say about you. Just life is short. Just do what you got to do, and say what you want to say, and just have fun. That's what me and all these guys, we do. We just have fun. When you have fun doing a job, it just doesn't seem like a job. And we got to interview Mark Medina. That was a huge interview. I think we got over like 2,000 something views on that show. It was like extremely crazy. It was crazy to the fact, like, at the point that we got, from how like it began from, an hour or 2 hours before the show, we get a text from Mark Medina saying, "Hey, we gotta like we have to do it today because I won't be available." And then that happens, and it just becomes a huge success. And then from you, Jonathan Mathis, coming into the MI6 Sports Network, and us doing this show, doing Wild Sports Talk, and then from that to go to what we've had right now, it's just so surreal, man. Like, every time we reach one of these milestones, or we are closing in on one of these milestones, or we just do these programs in general, I just gotta pinch myself, because I don't believe that I'm in reality. I feel like I'm dreaming, and that's kind of what these last like year and a half has been. And I gotta give, before I turn it back to you, Callan, I gotta give, obviously I gotta give everybody at the MI6 Sports Network a huge shout out, because you guys have been putting in like a lot of work. Whether it's making the website like Martin does, or whether it's Callan, like you, doing all the different programs and banners and stuff like that we had, and different shows and hosting and stuff like that. But the guy that I really got to give a huge shout out to is Jonathan Mathis. This guy, even though he's not part of MI6 anymore, but without him, none of this would be possible. None of like these milestones, none of these programs, whether it's the draft extravaganza or the holiday special, or any of that stuff, would have been special. And heck, none of these like friendships that we built would have been
Absolutely.
would not have been possible, because if Mathis did not come to me and say, "Hey, you want to join me for a podcast," and me take the leap of faith to do it, and I would not have met Callan. Callan would not have met me. Callan would not have met some of the guys or all the guys that we've had in the MI6 Sports Network. They would not have met Callan. They would not have met, Mathis. They would not have met, all of us. And then we would not have built this friendship. We would not have built this friendship, and the network honestly would not have been what it is today. So even though he's no longer a part of the network, and even though he wasn't one of the founders of this network, but Jonathan Mathis is one of the true guys that was the key to this network being successful and being where it is right now.
Isaiah, I know, of course, it was hard for all of us to find positives in 2020 and stuff of that caliber. But certainly, though, my man, is I know we say talk about this stuff all the time, and again, I'm sure there's viewers who are like, fellas, enough of this stuff. We know about it, but again, it bears repeating, though, because people forget that this is, we're not paid by an actual network to be here. We just happen to have our own branding and stuff like that, and stuff of that caliber. But, certainly, I think that's the thing, though. And I said this actually on John Alcorn's 2-year special today for his his career launching, and again, he's starting his own network, the God Over Money Sports Network, is that, it's who you know and what you know and stuff like that. But also, I think, though, Isaiah, that even now, I mean, I think that, with us and our, amazing friends over at Coast to Coast Entertainment, we've had, some great stuff happen there, with, Sunday Trivia or Sunday Jeopardy, I should say, and us going and talking baseball with Sarge and with Big B and stuff like that. Again, we'll have more of that crossover, folks. Eventually, we're just working on a couple of things though, and stuff like that. But certainly, though, Isaiah is, I kind of guess, though, man, to kind of stay on this tangent here again as we're going to close up the program here at the bottom of the hour. But certainly, Isaiah, is. I think that John Alcorn always says it best, though, Isaiah, is that, like that, the team camaraderie, the team chemistry, the family feel, the brotherhood feel, though, is, and I think that John always says, right, though, man, is that, the pre-show meetings, the post-show calls, the post-show antics or whatnot, that maybe, I'm probably doing some work and I'm like, hey, let's, come on into StreamYard. I'm watching, the Padres play or something like that, though. And that
group chat antics too,
the group chat and stuff, though. But that's what I think, though, is like, that people say so much, though, that, I say a lot, Isaiah, is of that team, that family feel, though, is that, we can get all the guys in before a show and, the guys will, we'll all talk about what we're going to talk about and stuff like that. And then, they'll all leave, but then they'll all come back and hang out and, say, hey, we watch stuff like that, though. I guess I say, more so your sentiments or your thoughts about kind of like, in a way, though, like I said, though, once on a program about, that, here, three strangers, you, me, and John Mathis, how would three random guys who've never met do hosting a podcast together? And it was, like peanut butter and jelly, doing it essentially. It was like peanut butter and jelly. How would you probably describe, though, how in fact that, that everyone generally loves and cares for one another on this network?
I think that, it's something really special that you typically don't find in other places. And also, it's really hard to find what we have right now. And I'm not trying to brag or make it like MI6 like the best network in the world, but we honestly have a type of chemistry that it's really hard to find, it started with me, Steven, and then Steven introducing me and the guys that live in the West Coast, Trevor, Shree, and Ryan as well, and also Gabe Jackson. Shout out to him too. And then from that, the thing is, like, we didn't meet each other. We've never met each other personally. We met each other through online. And, Callan, you've been in the industry a long time. I've been in the industry for like a few years now. That when you meet someone online, it's difficult to get that chemistry. It really is, because, you don't know them personally. So like, you're just like, I don't know, like, if the chemistry is going to work. And I was honestly kind of shocked, when me, you, and John came together. I had not met you until, like, I would say, like, the first time, like, we spoke, like, face to face was when we did that group call before the first episode of WST. And, that was the first time me and you spoke. So there was kind of skepticism going into that first show, because I was like, how are we going to gel? Is it going to be us just agreeing on everything and just being like, yes, man, or whatever? Or, us just like not agreeing on anything and just arguing all the time? You don't want to see that. But, the first show of WST, it really was fascinating. It was really successful because we gelled so much. We clicked really good. I remember joking around with y'all, like, I think John Mathis, and we was talking about our picks for the 2020 MLB season. We were making our picks, and John Mathis says, like, I'm picking the Angels to upset the A's and to upset the Astros and win the division. And then, Callan, your head explodes. You walk off the set, and here I am going like, oh my God, what did he just say? And then, I think, there was another part where, I'm a Phillies fan. I've been a diehard Phillies fan since 2008. And I forgot like Bryce Harper when I was naming the best players the Phillies have on their team. So it was just like a fascinating connection. It was a great connection from day one. And after that, we go to MI6, and it just turned into a brotherhood. Like, everybody on MI6 doesn't care about, stats, doesn't care about numbers, doesn't care about, I need my idea to, happen, or else, I'm quitting the network. No, it's like a discussion. It's a collaboration. It's truly teamwork. And, we accept everybody's ideas, into the mix, even though we should be accepting the Cooking with Isaiah show, Callan, but that's another story that's another story for a different day. But we truly accept everyone's ideas. We truly work together really well, and it's really great to see the brotherhood and the long-lasting friendships that we have accumulated here on the MI6 Sports Network. And it's not only lasted from internet, like on the internet, but it's lasted outside as well. As I've gone to San Diego, had lunch with you, Callan, went to San Antonio, bumped into or met up with Gabe Jackson, who I never knew until Steven introduced me to him, and we started playing fantasy, and we started podcasting together. Like, those types of friendships that you meet here on the internet, it translates to personal, real friendships, in person outside.
I mean, totally, and I know that Shri kind of got his schedule mixed up. We were going to try to go see the Padres play his Braves in San Diego in late September, but I think he's going to Columbus instead, though. But certainly, you and I going down to Fashion Valley for lunch, and not even talking about the network, but more so talking about San Diego sports and sports in general, and stuff like that. But again, having it away from the web is one thing, and certainly, I think that, and I know that, you actually, Isaiah, shared in the group that, you love looking at my LinkedIn profile for some reason. You saw, hey, 1 year at the MI6 Sports Network, buddy.
Well, that just popped up on my LinkedIn when I was trying to see like who had accepted my request on LinkedIn. So it just popped up, and I was like, wow, it's been a year now since Callan came to MI6, and WST, like almost a year since WST came to MI6. Like, I was like, wow, it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable for sure. But more so, Isaiah, real quick before we get to final thoughts, is, there's two groups of people that I think that we always thank on a repetitive basis. The viewers, of course, but also, where would we be though, Isaiah, without all the guests who have, taken the time out of their days to join us? Courtney Cronin, Mark Willard, John Schaefer, Brian Fenley, Gary Washburn, just name a few of them. Haley Scamora, who joined me on the lounge a couple weeks ago. Isaiah, where would we be though without, a tremendous group of supporters and viewers, like Christy and James and Casey and Ishmael and, all of our friends, my friends who are now your friends, and your friends who are now my friends, again, about that whole collective, cohesive unit, but of course the viewers, Isaiah, but also all those amazing big name guests who, again, took time out of their day to join us and talk, sports for a few minutes.
Yeah, I also want to thank them as well, because who would have ever thought that we would be able to interview such great guests that we've gotten onto our program. It's really remarkable that these guests, given how high profile they are and how accomplished they are, either in the industry or even playing in sports, they choose to take the time to come to a network that I would not say it's like that famous yet, but they choose to take the time to come and spend the time with us and talk about their careers, give us advice, and also talk sports with us. There's been a lot of people that when I look at the list, I'm just blown away to see that we've actually gotten them on our show to interview, because I never in my wildest dreams did I ever think we would get like these types of people. Like, for example, like Mark Medina. I've always looked up to him, looked at his work from afar with the Lakers. And then, we had I'm trying to think of some of the names on this list. By the way, I'm just looking at a blank piece of paper. So
Dan O'Dowd of MLE Network came on. Carolina Teague joined us from K-Loop in San Antonio. Jake Asman from Houston, National Radio. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Dan O'Dowd, I was going to mention him as well. This guy was a 15-year general manager with the Colorado Rockies, and he could have easily looked at my email and said, I'm not doing that because that guy's not, famous enough for me, or his network's not famous enough for me. But he took the time, took 40 minutes of his time, hops on our podcast, which he rarely does. He rarely goes on podcasts, but he hops on our podcast, and we have a great interview with him, and we built a great friendship with him. And, we're trying to get him back on, but it's a friendship that we've built there forever. Mike Yam, another one of the guys,
Yeah.
I was telling Mike on our program that I grew up on the couch as a 5-year-old watching SportsCenter and watching him, host SportsCenter with, I believe, Kevin O'Connor every single day at 6 p.m. Hawaii time. And he was one of the guys that I looked up to and was like, looking at him on TV, I was like, I could do this. I could be in this industry. I could work for ESPN one day because, Mike Yams is on there leading the way and being a trailblazer for, the Asian American community. And, there's other guests that I'm like just blanking off the top of my head. I don't want to, leave anybody out, but
save it for when we actually break 100,000, because that's going to be a whole 4-hour show just to celebrate, the milestone. Believe me.
Yeah. We've had some amazing guests, and it's truly amazing. These guys, that they are such high profile guys. They are so well versed in the industry. They've done so much in their careers, and they're willing to sit down with us. It's just so surreal, and it's just humbling.
Absolutely, for sure. With that, folks, we'll now begin to wrap things up with some final thoughts. All right, folks, put those drinks down. Lounge getting ready to close here on this Tuesday night. Again, this is a multi-hour show for a reason as we get close to the end here. Isaiah, again, we thank you for hopping on, buddy. If you have any final thoughts to pass along, please feel free to do so.
Well, Callan, I just want to thank all of our fans for tuning in tonight. I want to thank Ishmael. Ishmael, glad to have you back, aboard on the MI6 train, because we missed you there. You didn't tune in for a few programs, kind of getting worried for you. Christy Wilson, Casey King, and I believe we had one more, I think. I might be wrong on that. No, I think that's it. But thank you to all the fans for all the love and the support, and for tuning in to our program tonight. We really appreciate you. My final thought, Callan, is, I want to respond to one of Ishmael's questions that you had on the program. And that was any predictions for the second half of MLB? Well, I got one, and that is the Chicago Cubs are going to be massive sellers. They're going to have a massive fire sale. And my Oakland Athletics, and Callan, you might want to put on the shades and put that screen on, because I know you're going to go ballistic after hearing this, but that guy that Will posted last night was making fun of, well, my Oakland A's will trade a massive package to the Chicago Cubs to get him, and that is Mr. Javi Baez, who's going to be our new shortstop for the second half of the season. And, I think he's going to ball out in Oakland, and I think the A's are going to lose him in free agency like they always do. But, hey, it's going to be a great run in the second half. Looking forward to the second half in baseball in general, and also looking forward to the upcoming week of programming that we have, starting with fan response. We're getting callers. You guys, the fans, get to call in for the first time in this new, brand new Fan Response 2.0. You guys can talk to Ryan and Sammy tomorrow. We'll put the link in the description or in the comment section so you guys can call in. And then I think Thursday, Callan, we have a special Wild Sports Talk plan. I'll let you announce it, but we have a special Wild Sports Talk plan that we were thinking about right now that you guys are thoroughly going to enjoy. And then Friday, I'm going to be doing the show from the Coliseum. I'm going to be doing it from an empty suite, but we have Chris Fedor from Cleveland.com. Going to be a great show. I know a lot of you guys have questions regarding Colin Sexton. I saw it from the comments tonight and also from the comments from Wild Sports Talk, but Chris Fedor is here to answer all your questions regarding Colin Sexton and also regarding to the future of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Make sure you guys tune in for that.
Definitely, for sure. Also, folks, 2 other quick announcements as well. NBA Draft Extravaganza is coming back July 29th, and also the 1-year anniversary of Wild Sports Talk joining MI6 will also be shown live and in full after the draft show does in fact conclude, whenever in fact that may in fact be. So we'll see how in fact things do go as well. But also, folks, on Thursday as well, we're working on it right now, a trivia night being hosted by the MI6 Sports Network on Thursday, working out all the kinks and details, though, at this time. However, though, folks, I want to thank Isaiah Leung. I want to thank all of our viewers again, Christy Wilson, Ishmael, and also Casey King. With that, though, folks, until next week, the Sports Lounge officially closed. Up until next Tuesday, we'll hopefully, folks, be able to bring Isaiah back and hopefully get a good response, hopefully, of that Oakland City Council vote. We'll have Isaiah back on next Tuesday to, I think, kind of cover all the bases next Tuesday with that vote happening in Oakland about the A's potential future, hanging in the balance about either going to Howard Terminal or going to Las Vegas or another city, perhaps, for Major League Baseball. But again, folks, the Sports Lounge officially closed until next Tuesday. Folks, till next time, have a great night. Please stay safe and stay healthy, and so long. And we'll see you next Tuesday, folks. Till then, good night and bye-bye.